It's a Q&A. Hi guys, Primetime Mitch here, 3 weeks counting and still ill. I did say, however, I wanted to try and get some content out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer some questions that you very kindly asked me, and thank you for asking me those questions because it gives me something to do when I can't get in the studio and do some real work. So, okay, I'm going to start with the first question, and that's from Star Talks Horror. I urge you to check her page out on TikTok and Instagram. She's got loads of great content, some good reviews on movies, doing some really good work this year. Thank you for your question. And it is, do you have any horror goals for 2025? In terms of horror, I do have some goals. I started Primetime Mitch with a watch along of Nightmare on Elm Street 1. I did 2 in the middle of last year, and this year my first goal is to get number 3 watched, do a big watch along of that because that's one of my favorites, and obviously it's helped birth the name of my channel.
Welcome to Primetime Mitch.
So I'm looking forward to that. I also want to make an effort to go and watch as many horrors that get released this year. There was a lot last year. I got quite a few in, but I want to make sure I'm in that seat in the cinema to watch as many of these new releases and support the genre as much as I possibly can. I'd like to also talk to a few more people and do some interviews on the channel with some people from the industry, find out the work they do. This could be composers or artists, effects artists, that kind of thing, actors, upcoming directors, anything I possibly can on the channel to help the horror genre I'd like to do. And I'd like to also keep looking back through the years into the 70s and the 80s and looking at horrors that I haven't watched that I need to watch. I'm sure there's so many hidden gems out there that I need to get through. I began that crusade last year during Halloween, so I'd like to do the same again this year. My voice sounds shocking. I'm terribly sorry for that. Horror Movie Maniacs, another excellent channel. I aspire to be all of you guys. They've asked me the question, am I going to see Wolfman? Well, I actually managed to drag myself out of bed yesterday to go see it, and it's not done me any good because I'm not much better today, but I really wanted to get out of the house and do something, and I made a point of going to watch Wolfman, and there is a little review I just dropped on a little reel on Instagram if you want to check it out. It's on TikTok as well. I didn't dislike it. I thought it was a good effort at trying something new. I think if you're after something similar to the Universal Classic, you're not going to get it. You're going to be disappointed. But I think if you're a fan of body horror, you're a fan of The Fly, and you like that kind of deep, dark horror, I think it may hit for you. I'm watching it. If I watch it again, I'm going to detach myself from the original. And I'm also going to ignore, I think, a little bit of the underlying parenting message that was there because I don't think that was well executed. But it wasn't bad. I think it was a good effort, really, from Leigh Whannell. Lena Frankenstein, I hope you're doing well, Lena. I did a great video with Lena discussing creature features, funnily enough, towards the back end of last year. Some really good stuff she's doing at the moment, and she's worth a follow. You have actually asked me my general goals for 25. My general goal this year is to try and double my subscribers on YouTube. I wanted 200 subscribers last year, and I got 408, I think, by the end of the year, which is exactly what I want to do this year. I want to try and double them and try and interact with as many people as I possibly can and just improve my content overall. Hopefully it'll get me somewhere else and I can maybe start looking at some sort of career off the back of this. But my main goal is just to keep doing the content I'm doing and keep engaging more people and speaking to more people and interacting and getting more comments, likes and shares. It's just pretty much the general YouTube goal, but it's very important for me because there's a lot of hard work goes into it and you want to see a reward. Question from Sean, aka Moist Strawberry on Instagram, another great page. Had one fleeting glance across the queue at the For the Love of Horror convention when we were queuing for 𝐿𝐿. It'd be nice to chat properly at some point. But you've asked me a really interesting question, and it is, if I could go back and work with somebody on an existing movie, put my own spin on it and then re-release it as new, what would it be? And I'm actually going to go for Longlegs on that because I think that movie had a great deal of potential, and obviously when you've got Nicolas Cage performing like that, you want to make the absolute best of it. And although I did like the movie and I did enjoy what it offered, I believe I would have put a spin on it whereby Longlegs would have been just a deranged killer, a deranged psychopath, instead of the satanic cult angle that they gave us. I didn't really want that from the movie. I would have changed it round so that Longlegs was around for a little longer and was simply just a madman. I think that would have made it a lot scarier. So that would be the movie I'd go back and play with and reshoot. I hope that answers the question. If it was something visually or editing it in a certain way, I'm really not sure, because I'm quite easy to please when it comes to the visuals. Mary Loves Scary, we did a video on demons in movies recently on YouTube. Please check that out. It's a really fun chat. You've asked me a couple of quickfire ones, or 3 quickfire ones, I think, so I'll get through them. I'm guessing this is in relation to the mass amount of snacks I posted on my Instagram story the other day, but my favourite kind of potato, a really well roasted one with gravy. My least favourite episode of my favourite TV show, well, actually, it's funny, I don't know whether it's my favourite, but I'm a big Only Fools and Horses fan. It's a British sitcom that lasted very many years, very, very popular. And there's just one episode I really don't like, so that's why that came to my head straight away. And it's an episode where you got Del Boy and Rodney's the younger brother, and he meets a really nice girl who happens to have a very wealthy family, and he's like got a real shot at being with this made-for-life girl. She's really sweet and really nice as well, so she's not above her station or anything. And his brother Del wants to tag along and absolutely ruins it for him. I think it's called A Royal Flush or something like that, the episode. I never liked that one, and it's one that I never rewatch. And I rewatch every episode of that show, so it must have been a bad one. And my favourite streaming service at the moment is Amazon Prime, because it's got such a mixture. There's so many old movies I can watch on there, so many hidden gems, and yeah, it's a variety on there at the moment. I just love it. Question from my friend JB, and JB Creative, excellent guy, very talented, and some good work behind him. He has asked me a few questions, some of which I'm going to use as video ideas for the year, so thank you for that. I'll just pick a couple out. A little similar to the question Sean asked me, but not quite. If you could remake a movie that initially I thought sucked and make it better, what would it be? I'm going to go with the Blair Witch Project. I really don't like it, and I get a lot of hell for that off some people who I've said it to, but I just felt it was a wonderful idea, brilliantly marketed, and just badly executed. I didn't like the characters. I thought they were overly obnoxious, overly crass, and it didn't really grab me in any way. But there is a potential there to make that really frightening if done a little better, to make the characters more likable, to maybe make it slightly more interesting throughout when it seems to be lulling a little too much. So yeah, that would be the one I'd remake. Also, he asked me, what made the 80s and 90s so great, and why have the last 10 years not been anything like? I suppose it's down to opinion, but I mean, I'm on board with that. I believe the 80s and 90s had a real charm, a subtlety. I love that word. As everyone knows who watches the channel. A little bit more thought went into things. I think now it's more about just making money, and where it's always been about that, I do think making something special mattered once. There's less memorable things happening nowadays that are going to last the test of time. I think maybe things are overproduced now just because we can. If you have the money, use every bit of it. You know, if you have this technology, use it. If you've got CGI software, you have to use it. Nowadays, everything's become too easy, and it shows in the product. Fantastic question next from my future spouse, Amy Horror. She has asked me to cast a Muppet movie, like Muppet Christmas Carol, my favourite Christmas film of all time, and asked which movie and which live actor would be in it. I'm going to go really left field here. I'm going to say a really dark Muppet version of The Last Supper. And the live actor reprising his role is the absolutely legendary Mark Harmon.
Yeah, really.
Because I want to see how Miss Piggy would deal with his chauvinism. 𝐒𝐿𝐷𝐻𝐻, excellent YouTube channel. I've done a couple of videos with him on Primetime Mitch. He asked me the question, who is the scariest horror villain? Like, who would I not want to be in a situation with? That's quite a difficult one, actually. I mean, I can try and sort of reel off some and then pick one. You could look at, what might happen to me. In that case, it would be the Clown. I could put Annie Wilkes in there, actually, as well, a nutcase that she is. Freddy from the second movie, I always thought was really quite terrifying. I think Art is probably up there, because not only does he do some revolting things to people and he enjoys the pain and the suffering, but also he can seemingly not be killed. There's a supernatural element as well. So he's probably very high up there at the moment. But I think overall, I've never wanted to be anywhere near Leatherface. And that whole setup, that whole farmhouse, no, he's a no-no for me. So probably Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The first one and the 2003 remake. He was terrifying in the remake. Sarah DeRosa, my extreme author friend who I did a fantastic video with, interviewing her last year, asked me my favourite slasher. Nightmare on Elm Street, 1000%, will always be my favourite horror, and I guess that makes it my favourite slasher. There's a lot of very good ones out there and ones I really enjoy, but that one will always be the quintessential one for me. And he has 4 slashing options. Stellar Future Radio on X, another great podcast that I'm pleased to follow. Asking a very relevant question, actually. Top 5 movies with sick people. I don't want to go too deep on this one, but first ones that spring to mind, Steel Magnolias. Absolutely love that movie, and obviously Julia Roberts' character is a focal point in that. You could argue, when it comes to mental health and things like that, that One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and those kind of movies deserve to be acknowledged in that sense. But in that category, I'm going to go for Girl Interrupted. I think that's a great movie. I've not seen it for quite a while. I will revisit it at some point. Cabin Fever's a fun watch. I think I'll add that one in. I really enjoy that, particularly the ending. Forrest Gump. Both Jenny and his mother are very sick in that, and that's my favourite movie of all time. And lastly, a British movie based on the true story, the 1981 Grand National. It's called Champions. John Hurt plays Bob Champion, who is stricken with cancer, and he has to try and fight his way back to the big race with his crippled horse, Aldeniti. It's one I watched in my childhood, and I really loved it, and the fact it's a true story is amazing. So yeah, that definitely goes in. I think that's 5. Finally, a question from Watch It If You Can podcast. I did some work with them last year talking about King of Comedy. Really great channel. Please check them out on various platforms. They've asked me, what movie would you show to somebody who was new to horror? I think that's a really good question. I think it just depends what level of horror you're after at the start. I think it's a bit like introducing somebody to wrestling and then showing them a death match or something. You don't want to put them off straight away, and I think something like Halloween is a very good balance. There's not tons of gore and there's barely any blood at all, but it's all about that suspense and that fear and the survival against something that wants to harm you, which I think encapsulates horror. So that's a good one. I think if you want to maybe go slightly grittier and a bit more of a step up, maybe something like Black Christmas is a good one. And then obviously if they want a little bit more of what we are accustomed to, like I said earlier, maybe the 2003 remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that sort of ticks every box in terms of what is needed from a horror. You've got isolation, macabre, some very unsettling visuals, some quite graphic, but not over-the-top graphic gore. So I think that one's pretty good as a next level one. But yeah, I think in all, it just really depends on what you're prepared for. Thank you guys for this video. That was my question and answer session. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your views on this, your questions that you've given me, because I ridiculously am still ill 3 weeks into January, and I'm struggling to get into the studio and actually concentrate on doing something substantial with all the editing that goes with it. So this has been really nice to be able to just sit down and get some content out. It's really appreciated. I really want to hit my targets this year, and I feel like this has derailed me right from the off. So hopefully I'll start improving soon. I'm going to keep trying to drag myself out to watch movies, and hopefully it won't stunt my recovery. But in the meantime, thank you for what you have done for me with this video in particular. Hit that like button and that notification bell, and hopefully there'll be things to be notified about in the near future. Your subscriptions mean everything to me. Please, if you enjoy my content and you enjoy what I do, please drop me a subscribe and something in the comments below. Talk to me about what you think of my opinions in this video, my answers, and just in general. I love interacting, and it keeps me going and keeps me motivated. And I will bid you farewell, and I will see you on the healthy side of life.